gotta be pretty close
That other
together.
little shop across the corner of that good house too. The roof's got a
To order. Let's do the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll please.
Amy Bowman.
Here.
Frank Myers.
here.
Leanne Waldvogel.
Here.
Donna Roush.
Here.
And Martha Patterson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, next we have the agenda for this evening to approve. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second it. All say aye. Aye. Okay, then next, we need to look over the minutes from October 17th first, and then October 20th. So let's go over the 17th first. Did anyone notice any issues?
I move to accept the October 17 minutes as presented.
Second.
I'll say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and how about the 20th?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 20th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll say aye.
Aye.
All right, Carla, introduction of evidence.
I would like to introduce into evidence the municipal code for St. Genevieve and the design guidelines for the St. Genevieve National Register Historic District.
I move to approve the entry.
I second.
I'll say aye.
Thanks.
Aye.
Okay, so we don't have any old business this evening, so we're on to new business, which is item 1. To receive a certificate of appropriateness to replace the existing stamped tin roof with the new architectural asphalt shingles at 145 North Street. Jocelyn? Hi, you want to come on up to the podium?
And I just wanted to add that there were three, the garage roof, there were portions of this this application that I was able to administratively approve, which I can just go ahead and touch now because we're on this application. She's wanting to replace the roof on the garage in kind with asphalt shingle, the roof on the carport in kind with W-pan metal, and replacing the K-style gutters on the house with K-style gutters. And so those items were all being replaced in kind, and so that portion of this application has already been approved. And so the only thing that was left to be approved was changing the house from the stamped tin shingle to an asphalt shingle.
Okay, thank you. Well, so Carlos told us what we're doing, so does anybody have any discussion? Yeah.
No, I think that if the roof needs replaced, that the asphalt shingle is, I think, an appropriate material for that style house in the historic district, so
I was also
I
going to
really
say,
have no,
when you look at the black and white picture, I mean, and I drove by it, and if you
Yeah.
look, but from this picture, the asphalt shingle would look exactly like that, I feel.
I'll make a motion we approve.
You didn't even have to talk yet.
I'll second it.
I'll say aye.
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 Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Formality, thanks. And you don't have to stay if you don't want to.
Oh, okay. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you all.
You don't have to just be
Approved, right?
polite. Yes.
We can move forward. I'm sure my roof will be happy.
Thank you, Ms. McKee.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, we have item 2, certificate of appropriateness to install prefabricated greenhouse at 1007 North Main Street.
Well, first, I'm jealous.
So, Mr. Myers, you going to tell us about this?
I will not take place in the debate, but I'll try to explain what it is. It's a modern, prefabricated greenhouse, a small greenhouse. It's not inappropriate for that type of structure because I'm sure they were growing plants in some type of structure. But I don't like, as you all know, I don't like little structures that are inappropriate for historic district in the backyard. This, what we're doing, I'm putting it out behind the barn, and this is an old barn that's on the house that I use as a garage. And from the main street, it will be impossible to see. From the house, you will not be able to see it. From the street above, there's enough vegetation there that you won't see it either. So it'll be completely hidden from view. Anyone that might have an objection to the appearance of it. And there's nothing fancy about it. But my son wanted to grow plants. I've got too many plants, I think.
So there's greenery behind it on that back street also?
Yes. There's a big cedar trees right behind it, and then there's some other shrubbery that's there.
I see nothing wrong with this whatsoever. To me, a greenhouse wouldn't even be a permanent structure, so.
No, it's not. I mean,
Yeah.
but they'll be fastened down. So, but if anybody wants to take it out, it'll leave no mark on the,
So I make a motion to approve.
I second the motion.
I'll say aye.
And you'll have to have a greenhouse welcoming party. We'll all bring a plant.
Hey, that sounds good.
I want to see
Go bring plants. I got plants. A friend of mine got one just about that size. He
Your son has a chair.
raises cactus. Cacti. And he's
Well,
just,
yeah.
that's been his
I just
favorite
want to
place
look
to be
inside
ever
your
since.
house. Mr. Myers. Mr. Myers, I would love a tour of your house.
I'd like to do that sometime.
That would make me happy.
Because no, it's nothing that I have done particularly, but the house is about as close to being original as anything can be. I mean,
It's beautiful. Like, I've liked that
the
house since I was a
plaster is
kid.
all original, the floorboards are all original, the doors are, the locks, it's a second generation lock, but they're 1850 anyway. And it's the people that have owned the house over the years have done a great job preserving it. So we moved in.
I'm even more curious about
It was
that.
it was 4 apartments when we moved into the building. But when they put, the rooms are big enough, they're 18 by 18, all the rooms. So all we had to do was take out the new partitions that they'd put in, and we were back to the original configuration.
Well, it's like been one of my favorites since I was a little kid.
The new roof looks very nice on it too.
Okay, so on to item 3, a certificate of appropriateness to replace the existing 9 wood double-hung windows with 9 1/1 vinyl double-hung windows at 272 Merchant Street. And I don't believe they're here.
And in talking with Sue Steiner, she had also stated that if replacing all 9 of the windows would not be allowed, then they would still like to replace the 6 on the side, second story. And then if not, then they would replace the front windows with wood if it was not acceptable to do the other way.
Well, in my opinion, since it's that one-way street and you don't even see the 6 windows when you're driving up the street, I think that would be okay, but I would try to like to keep the front of the building, the wooden windows, the facade, the streetscape.
Yeah. My concern is the city has received a great deal of money because of the historic nature of it. And that's the only reason we received it, for the levy for most of the streets. To do that, we, as a city, agreed that we would maintain the historic district. To determine just how it should be maintained, the Board of Aldermen entered into a contract with a firm that specializes in that type of work and came up with a set of rules. We were adopted by ordinance by the city, and that's the rules that we try to go by. And as the administrator has pointed out in her review of this, it does not meet the requirements of the ordinance, and she recommends that we disapprove it. Now, an ordinance is the law, I believe. And if they wish to change the law, there are procedures whereby the Board of Aldermen can change them. But I hate to be asked month after month to disregard the law and and approve something that is not in, should not be approved by the ordinance as written.
I have a little different take on that. I know I'm new, but I have a little different take on that. From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, these are guidelines, not rules. They're suggestions. It's not written in stone.
It's adopted by ordinance.
It's the guidelines. The guideline is something to go by. It's not a law.
I have to list denial as my recommendation because I am bound by the ordinance that states that if it is not the same material that is currently there or back to original, then I myself cannot approve something. That's why it automatically comes to this commission.
If they were willing to, I know we're not here, so this is not an answerable question, but if they are willing to replace the front windows with wooden windows, why not make it coherent and do all of them?
I see no difference in having vinyl windows all the way around. There is a roof here. I walk the area constantly. I never look up to see what kind of windows. And the vinyl windows are very efficient. They're easy to clean. And especially on the second floor, how in the world are they going to clean those windows? And I like to clean windows. Not that I always have clean windows, but
I think that if that is what the administration wants, then they should change the guidelines to reflect that. But until they change the guidelines, I think I'm bound to follow the guidelines.
I understand that. And like I say, I'm new, but when I go through some of those guidelines, I think they really should be updated.
Well, like, we talked about the house on Market Street last time, and we talked about how that was the one-way street and how you could see so many sides of that building. And we only see the one side of this one, and it's only up top. Whenever you look at these pictures of 272, and then you look at some of the buildings around it, I can't tell the difference in the pictures.
Well, my question is, she's listed in here that the board approved on 252 to change the windows.
This would have been the Landmarks Commission prior to the Heritage Commission.
That's what I needed to know is,
Same guidelines, different commission.
so,
You also need to know that, though, that's the side and not the front.
right. I'm just asking
Yeah.
to get a perspective on it.
Yeah.
I think it's really dangerous if we go by rules and approve something merely because somebody prior to us has made a mistake in reading the thing. The fact that you get by with doing something that's not by the guidelines once does not mean that the building is condemned forever, that anything goes.
Well, and I hate to say it, but I don't think we've approved all of these.
And we didn't approve Market,
Yeah.
so it should go back
That's what I mean.
kind with kind,
If that is
I
what,
think.
if that is what the administration wants, then change the guidelines. But in changing the guidelines, you've got to be careful. I mean, we are in a very favorable position in St. Genevieve with our history. We have received a great deal of support and funding because of it. And right now, we're embarked on trying to get another project approved. It's still, the Department of Interior has approved the study, I mean, recommended approval, but the Congress has to approve that thing.
Can I see the color picture?
Now, it took a letter written by the Historic Preservation Community in town. I wrote the letter and signed it out, that we got that study money. We have $300,000 to make a study. The study has been done. The study recommends that we become a national park of one sort or another. It's just as easy for another citizen to write a letter and say, why should we keep putting federal money into this town when they won't abide by the rules that they have agreed to?
Trust me, I understand, because I take care of
No, I wasn't
properties
pointing
involved
it
in
at you,
this.
but it's just it's something, we have been very fortunate because we've got a beautiful old town that nationally it's recognized.
But we have to help the people keep it up and make it more efficient. We have to help the people maintain their places.
I would agree with that, and I think that efficiency could be obtained without violating the guidelines.
This is such a nice old brick commercial building with a fancy brickwork that I don't think is done anymore. And I don't think that it would be appropriate to have vinyl in this building. If they are willing to replace part of the windows with wood, then why not all of them?
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the vinyl windows, all 9 of them.
All 9 of them. Is there a second? Okay, so I guess it fails due to lack
I think it's dead.
of second.
Can we request that the Steigers come and discuss the replacement with all wood?
Yeah, I mean, sure, we can.
You could make a motion to approve it, and they either will act, if you approve it, you sustain the motion, they'll either act on it or come back to you for another request.
Come on, people, do something.
Way to be brave.
I'll make a motion that we follow the recommendation of in the report and not approve the installation of vinyl windows in that address.
Okay,
Second.
I'll say aye. I'm gonna say no. I think it would be okay to have them in the side.
So then, let's do a roll call so that we can make
What
sure.
did you say?
I think it would be okay to have them in the side.
Well, I almost brought that up a while ago, let's compromise somewhere, kind of like we were going to do last time with the, we talked with the.
So roll,
managers.
we have to do roll call because of the vote being split.
Jamie Bowman,
Nay.
Frank Myers.
No?
No, yes is.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes is to deny.
Yes, yes.
So we're voting on your motion at this
Yes.
point.
Leanne Waldvogel,
Yes.
Donna Roush,
Yes.
Martha Patterson.
No.
So it's 3 in favor to deny and 2
So it's
So it will,
approved for wooden windows.
it would be to deny the vinyl windows altogether.
Is there any other questions or any other, no other new business? So I guess we're moving on to administrative approvals.
Let's see, approval to replace the roof, the wood shake roof in kind at the county's building. To install a sign at 185 Market Street for a new photography studio going in there. 167 North 5th Street to replace asphalt shingle roof in kind. And then we had already discussed 145 North 4th Street, that was up for this evening. And then the final was was basically maintenance work to paint the house at 220 Merchant Street.
Why did they need a approval to paint?
I just gave them a certificate of appropriateness notating that it was maintenance.
No, I wasn't complaining
had-
about that, I was just asking the question.
They had submitted-
Why did they need to even submit a request for painting?
They had submitted a request, and so following up on that request, a certificate was sent to them so that, just notating that
Even though they didn't really have to.
it was just maintenance.
Okay. Okay, so that was several things that were able to be taken care of by Carla. Okay, so do we have any public comments?
I do have one other thing. In October, we had briefly, I believe it was October, we had briefly discussed some possibilities that the DuBourg Center was looking to, their concern was
For a
the
barrier
nursery
wall.
there for the daycare center, having some type of baluster or something there. And so we met today with Jim Dunsey and Vern Bowman, and just, they were looking at something similar to this without the chains, and this would be more in keeping, it would kind of go with their fence that is already around the desert. Pass this around here. And that's something, so just to kind of give you guys an idea of what is going to be coming, that's kind of what they're looking for. It would only be a section from the corner of the building closest to the desert to where the brick wall, where the windows end between the daycare and the DuBourg Center. And it would just be however many, probably 6 feet apart, approximately, without the chains.
Narrow enough that a car could
That a car couldn't go through.
Yeah.
Now, those cars, when they're backing out of there, they're coming out at an angle anyways. And so when we were looking at it today, we were basically
It would be
just
difficult to
trying
go
to...
straight in.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I had a two-story brick building in the city that was on a corner. There's no parking, and in order to avoid an accident, there was an accident, and the car got forced into my building, so it can happen.
It can happen.
What's the reason for no chains?
Because kids load and unload there,
Okay.
and that could create another issue of them
And they
playing
will
with
go
them.
over a
They're gonna
chain.
swing on
They
them,
will,
somebody's gonna
yes.
flip
Or
over.
somebody
and-
tripping over them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that was something that's kind of where they're leaning towards, and when we met out there today, it was more on placement because of water sewer lines that are in the street, the storm sewer, the gutters.
What did they think about the flowers or the big pots?
They really didn't,
Didn't even think of that.
That would be a lot of
They
maintenance.
considered going towards the building more, but when they looked at going towards the building more, by the time someone was there, they were already at the building. And so they were looking for something that was less invasive. They could core down, straight down into the sidewalk there without having to disrupt as much.
Yeah,
So-
about a foot off the sidewalk instead of 2.5 feet or 3 feet.
Exactly. And it would be basically in line with where the utility poles are near the end of the sidewalk anyways. And that section of sidewalk is about 9'3" anyways. So the ADA issue wouldn't be a problem. They would still have plenty of room to be compliant there.
Those things could be done two ways. One is cement them in solidly. The other is so that they can be removed in case you want to maintain the front of the building or for any other public reason. And it's probably more expensive to put them in so that they have the capability of being removed, but it makes a much better installation.
Where they fit in a sleeve, you mean?
Yes.
Right, yeah, and that is a good idea, because then if you ever have to get a truck up to the door or
That's
something,
right.
you can do it.
That much glass, it will have to be replaced at some point.
Yeah.
So that's basically just, it's gonna be coming, it may be coming in the next meeting. But they just wanted to kind of share the thoughts that they have so far and just kind of make everyone aware of where
No, I'm sorry.
they're looking
And
at.
they're proposing to pour a concrete pillar and this goes over it.
Right.
So the black metal, ornamental metal isn't
It-
integral to the post, it's just a...
Right, it's just ornamental. That's all I have.
Okay, so is there any other comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All say aye. Thank
So,
you.
I went to a seminar on Robert's Rules of Order.